A door splintering and crashing in the sound of boots slamming at night in opposition to hardwood floors, and the dazzling glare of spotlights and firearms directed towards a single, partially clothed woman, leaking water, gripping a towel frantically. Against her chest, bored the ground right now. Her silence was shaken by the screams. Suburban residents. No one suspected her. She wasn't a criminal. She was taking a bath. Elena Ward was her name. Additionally, in her life had ended in less than 30 seconds. Became a nightmare. She was pulled across her living securing, her hands behind her back in her roomos. Her neighbors looked on in disbelief. From the other side of the street, there was silence. Telephones rose, the cameras captured. In a few hours, a video that went viral would show the world in her own house. A young woman was humiliated. However, nobody, not even the neighbors. The policeman? Not even Elena. I became aware of this at that precise moment. The raid tonight was no accident. It was a notification, a caution, a step in a much bigger game. Since Elena Ward wasn't simply anybody. She was the daughter of the most influential member in law enforcement in the U.S., the director of the FBI, when the truth was revealed, the same when police broke inside her house. They would discover their own careers in a precarious situation. However, the true twist wasn't Elena's identity that would lead to their demise. It was what was already on their Bodycam, Scott. The evidence of a conspiracy does not one anticipated. The mansion of Elena Ward was the type of location where you'd hardly observe a car passing by. A small porch, a garage with a single car, and tightly drawn blinds in opposition to the darkness. For several months, she had used this peaceful area for one cause. It allowed her to survive without the shadow of her last name. No one is present. Was aware that she was Thomas's daughter, Ward, the FBI director. No one was aware the burden that was carried. To them, she was just Elena, the courteous young woman, a woman who was late at night with food bags waved at night while walking her dog. She kept to herself. The anonymity was her defense. Additionally, that shield was about to be torn away. Within. The narcotics task was miles away. Around a whiteboard, the force gathered. The marker was tapped by the captain against unaddressed in block, bold characters. There had been little surveillance. A source of information and usual whispers regarding packages, possibly drug-using visitors, but then it was not unusual to be intelligent. What pressure was what counted. The division had received negative press for low numbers of arrests, alleged to be weak, charged with failure. A raid, the captain thought, would alter the narrative. "We get moving tonight," he growled. An amateur frightened of being careless raised a hand. Documentation. The residence number appeared smeared, possibly a digit off. The captain's eyes squinted. "Not error," he stated bluntly. "This is the location. This is it." The room collapsed. Quiet. No one asked him again. "Gear up." Suddenly, the house was the target. At 9:57 p.m., 3 SUVs without license plates scudded onto Elena Street. Headlights off, engines low. At the corner, they rolled to a stop. Officers' tactical gear clanked, guns loaded, helmets adjusted, and turned on the body cameras. Each moment was captured. Each yell, each blow of each, and every word they would say to the battering ram regret. Later, the voice of the captain Erved steady on the radio. "Quick access, manage the suspect. Safeguard evidence superior to its destruction. Proceed, Elena is inside. Didn't know. She would arrive home late, worn out from her job at the company as an intern in law. There were leftovers from dinner. Takeaway. She sent half-finished emails. Last, she let the day to fade in lavender vapor flowing upward in a hot bath. She could hear music coming from her phone. For that day, for the first time, she felt tranquilly. Then the fragment broke. The sound of the entrance door exploding inward, the walls trembled. Boots thundered. Through her living room. People yelled, similar to gunfire. Police cancel their search warrant. Right now. Elena froze, leaking water from her hair, holding onto a towel chest. She staggered into the corridor, blinded by the red and beams of light laser pointers dancing across her skin. The hands took hold of her and pulled her. arms behind her back, cuffs of cold steel locked. Shailed, "This is my home, you have it incorrect." However, her voice disappeared under commands, growled in stern mechanical tones. She was pushed by an officer to Theffler, pressing her cheek firmly against wood. The towel slipped. Disgrace scorched? More intensely than fear, and everything was captured on video. The body of a young woman was captured on camera. Wet, half-dressed, and contemplating to be heard in her own house. Her neighbors observed from their verandas. Phones up, taking shaky video that might soon overtake Facebook, TikTok, YouTube as well. In a few of hours, hashtags will be furious at illegal raids, racial profiling, and wrongdoing by police. However, Elena was aware of, at the time, was Thigan's weight aimed at her head, and the agony of shame that would not disappear. Officers barged into one room after another, ripping cabinet drawers, ripping sofa cushions and mattress, flipping down on the ground. One said, "Verified," another shouted, "Clear the basement." Upstairs they used violence in their movements, but there was a problem. No narcotics, no weapons, no proof, only framed books, diplomas, as well as the silent discipline of an innocent life. Elena let out a gasp, weeping. "You've done something wrong. This is my address. This is where I reside." "You've got it incorrect." However, the captain's mouth tensed. The room was piercing with glare. "Hold on to," he ordered, seeking. "We did not arrive accidentally here." The words were more weighty compared to the guns. For Elena, it was the first indication that this wasn't incapacity. It was deliberate. At that moment, Elena felt anything more profound than fear. It was rage. In her chest, a fire ignited. These men believed they could enter and demolish her house, deprive her of her honor, and depart without repercussions. They believed she was helpless. They didn't know they had just tossed their daughter to the floor. And as the torch of one officer swept over her mantle, the initial Fisher reapered in their self-assurance. A framed picture of Elena next. To her father grinning before a seal that said, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Elena's living room was silent, oppressive, broken only by the slightest the clamor of radios and the irregular breathing off cops who abruptly became aware of their careers. Were on the verge of collapse. Edge. On the mantel, the picture had transformed a standard raid into a disaster. A quick look at that frame the picture revealed the reality of their desperation, wished was a falsehood. They had rushed into the FBI director's daughter's house. And even worse, the video from their own Bodycam had saved every moment of it. The door was splintered by the battering ram, firearms aimed at a woman who was partially nude. Her wrists were being bit by the restraints. No numerous justifications could eliminate the digital trail. The face of the captain sharpened as he struggled for dominance. He yelled, "Secure the area," but his voice was no longer as steely. The men shuffled awkwardly, hesitating. A novice moved his weapon and muttered, "This is terrible, sir. It's a wrong raid. We must cease." The captain gave him a stern look, enough to shatter glass. However, he was aware of it as well. Was accurate. Every detail of this evening loudly. Violation. Infringement of civil rights. Infringement of process. Betrayal of confidence. Elena's room was filled with a low yet steady. "You believe you can leave from this? Do you believe it can be buried? Each and every order you've given, every hand that touched me was something you gave. Is captured by your own body camera. Will put you on trial." She didn't sound like plea. The sentence has already been given. The captain whirled in her direction, looking seeking power he no longer possessed. "Shut," he growled, "your mouth," but the word sounded hollow. And further cop behind him, "She's right." She mumbled, "This is on record." Panic began to grow, and once it got going, it quickly spread. Team ripped through the final nooks and crannies of home, knocking over bookcases and distributing files all over the floor. Nothing, no weapons, no contraband, absolutely nothing like the rationale behind this raid. The space appeared to be a battlefield, yet the only criminality that was evident was theirs. The captain rubbed his commit, button. Sweat trickling down his forehead. He was aware of the law and an eye body. This wasn't only an error, a lawsuit was just waiting to be filed, such as the multi-million-dollar careers and settlements destroyed. The whisper that froze then came. Everyone, Elena's head jolted up. Her eyes one of the cops had narrowed she caught. Even though it was uttered too softly, they were aware of her identity. It was not a surprise. It was recognition. It was discovery. Elena's stomach turned around. This wasn't a clerical error, careless documentation. It was intentional. Each individual whose honor has been broken by a system that believed it was inviolable. The system is currently right now, and it will respond. There was no denying the twist. What started as a single raid turned into a nation-wide wrecking. Nowadays, it wasn't only about him. It has to do with corruption, conspiracy, and one's ability to persevere. Women who wouldn't keep quiet. Great. Video intended to safeguard the officers had turned into the cutting blade, their separate professions. Additionally, as the investigation grew, America recognized this was not the story's conclusion. Marked the start of a conflict for accountability. That would be extensive and a single city, neighborhood, or just one name. Elena's house was fixed a few weeks later. The flooring were sanded, the door was replaced, the damaged furniture was removed. However, invisible but irreversible scars persisted. The recollection of being pulled over her own living room, devoid of honor, made to feel helpless in a single location intended to be secure. The majority of individuals would have concluded there, a personal injury carried in silence. But Elena wouldn't have it. Her hair was tugged when she stood before Congress. Back, upright posture, and a clear voice as it reverberated across the room. Millions of people, lawmakers, and cameras as she talked. Spectators at home leaned in. In my own house, I was humiliated, confined in my neighbor's presence with no offense. No proof and no justification. But what's so terrible about my tale isn't that I am the daughter of the director of the FBI. It is what thousands of Americans have to deal with. Such assaults each year without cameras, no news stories, and no justice. She slammed her words into the ground. Her testimony went viral with clips all around the nation. Families who had experienced unfair raids and discovered their bravery to speak. Long-buried case reappeared. A Bodycam video once courtrooms played back the ignored. Judges questioned warrants for no knocks with renewed doubt. The repercussions of her suffering extended well beyond one neighborhood. It sparked a discussion regarding police and civil rights accountability as well as structural change. Police concerned. The repercussions were serious. The captain was charged with federal accusations of obstruction and conspiracy. Many of the team members resigned in shame. The city reached a settlement for millions of dollars with Elena, but she contributed a large portion to legal funds, assisting those who have been wronged by police. Justice, she told reporters bluntly, is not a reward. Justice is transformation. Director Ward, his father, never brought up his voice during the experience. He didn't recuerdo. His quiet bore the burden off the organization he oversaw. However, when Heffenley spoke to the country, the message was clear. The law is not above law enforcement. Each badge carries a certain amount of obligation. Every action ought to withstand their responsibility. The raid on my trust was violated in the daughter's home, and it is necessary to restore that trust, not with justifications but with reform. Elena's talent turned into a case study for law schools, a trigger and a historical headline in discussions of policy. She had started that she began the night as a victim but concluded it as a voice, a warning that authority is not measured not by uniforms or weaponry but by truth supported by data and with the bravery to resist mistreatment. What ultimately surprised America the most, the police stormed the wrong place, didn't they? House, it was that they were fully aware Offo's residence it was. They bet that fear would quiet even the FBI director's daughter. They lost that wager. And in their defeat, they revealed a too loud to ignore is the truth as Elena left the Capitol in pursuit of her. Testimonies, demonstrators applauded her name. Carrying placards that say, "Justice for everything, no more unjustified raids and responsibility right now." She stopped at the atop the stairs, looking out at the throng, modest yet determined. At that time, she wasn't merely a victim, a daughter, a reverend, a survivor. Her presence served as a reminder that the nation, The police and the public ignorantly. Justice doesn't exist until someone has the guts to insist on it. This is how a camera, a towel, and a whisper became the beginning of a movement that America was no longer able to turn your head away.